so bright, sharing thoughts and shades of light. Reality and crime collide. Join the right sit by their side. Banter and breakdowns, here we go. Stories fast and stories slow. Spoken voices make their mark in the day and in the dark.
Well, first, let me welcome what most people who've seen any of these videos of mine have thought was my invisible friend, Kelly.
Hi.
But no, she exists.
I'm like the Mr. Snuffleupagus of your podcast.
I love Snuffleupagus. It was my favorite character on Sesame Street.
Mine as well. That's why I brought him up. Jinx.
We've spent the last 2.5 hours, once again, trying to get to a point to record. We've been here so many times. But how we got around it? By bypassing the $700 piece of crap that I purchased to do this.
The $50 one from Amazon that,
I have that one too.
fine.
I mean, I've got one, yes, that I got from Amazon. I'm going to try that one next time.
You should.
It's now too late to return this one. I'm pretty sure. But I'll be checking later tonight. Roadcaster. Whatever. At the beginning, first 5 minutes of the episode, I literally went, that was a lot in 5 minutes.
It was.
I mean, I counted down the time.
I dug it. Don't get me wrong. I dug it.
At one point, I wrote, and that was the first 5 minutes, because I said, within the first 20 seconds, you knew this was only streaming because Billy Bob Thornton dropped the F-bomb in 20 seconds into the show. So you knew it wasn't going to be on CBS.
That was really weird.
I had a big rant to discuss today about the phone call I got before this, but I'm going to hold it given we've spent 2.5 hours trying to get to this point. I'll do a separate thing because I threatened to go on and talk about them. So I'm going to do that.
I mean, I have a great many things to rant about as well. Since I tormented you in the middle of the day to rant at you, I can always, go on a good tirade. But you are correct. We spent a really long time getting here, and
this is a 2 episode.
Are we going to go over both episodes tonight? Or are we going to go over one episode?
Well, we can't do it next week because then next week we're already behind. Yeah. So we would have to drop 2 episodes this week. So whichever you prefer.
I was actually thinking that because it's 9:00 and you're going to have to edit this video tonight.
Okay, so the first episode it is
for you. As it opened up, I love the fact that he brought contracts, cigarettes, and beer to his own kidnapping. Like, please, can we? That I want to be that cool when I grow up.
Listen, he was pretty cool just because in the opening scene, it opens Billy Bob Thornton, aka Tommy, is in what I initially thought must be a old plane hangar, but no, it's like holds feed and stuff for land, whatever. Probably a lot of, I saw cars and stuff, but at some point it probably had cocaine in it.
Probably still has cocaine in it.
Well, they didn't show any in there at the time. 6 months later, maybe. So it opens up with Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah.
Got it like a flour sack over his head.
Little burlap bag.
Tied up.
Yep.
And 2 Hispanic burlap bag. Yep. And 2 Hispanic young guys there with guns sitting there just waiting. And he asked to go to the bathroom.
First scene to tie into what he said. And it was the job of a landman is to manage the people, and which was pretty simple. And to secure the land, he got kidnapped.
Yes.
That was the easy
the very
part.
last thing he's saying as he's driving away.
Yeah.
But before that, so
I think that whole scene was just to demonstrate that was the easy part, that everything else to follow was going to be more difficult. Absolutely.
Well, yes, obviously, we found out pretty quickly. But what I found interesting, so he gets hit in the head for asking to pee, and there's blood on the burlap bag. So when the boss comes in and sees the blood, and obviously one of the guys did it, as the guy is trying to explain, he gets shot in the head and dies. So you
'cause they weren't
obviously
supposed to.
know this is not a guy to mess with. So then he sits down.
Yet I don't think there's
and
much
he's
relevance
like,
to that at all.
so when the negotiations, as we like to refer to them as, when the guy says, so you think this is your land? And he says, well, you own the rights to the land, the surface, but not the mineral rights. And that's a lot of things, like, people don't understand that there are two different things. And there's also air rights, which is something that New Yorkers deal with. But when I found it interesting when they talk about, I got to go back to this because I found it, one of the things I liked about the episode was all of the true facts that you learn about the oil companies. And Tommy, when they're arguing about, you're not going to put, this land's not for sale or whatever. And he says, no, we're going to lease it. And he says, each oil well costs $6 million to install.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to put 800 of those on this land.
Mm-hmm.
That is $4.8 billion. And we're going to put another $1 billion into waters and trucks. At $78 a barrel, they're making $6.4 million a day for the next 50 years.
Which was proving the point that even if they killed him, the oil companies aren't going away. They're not going away over one guy.
And that's what he said. Like, if you kill me or you say no, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And obviously the guy said, yeah, I'll accept that deal. And I thought it was funny that we'll put a DEA station right across the street if you mess with our stuff. And what I also found fascinating was, as he was driving off, and Billy Bob Thornton is also the voiceover or narrator of the show, and he talks about some astonishing facts about oil and gas companies, which they make $3 billion a day in profit.
Feel awesome about the price of gas?
Yeah.
And
$3 billion a day. And it generates over $4.3 trillion in revenue a year.
Mm-hmm. And
what I found even more remarkable is that at $3 billion a day in profit, they're only number 7 of the largest industries in the world. And that doesn't include the auto production, food production, coal mining, and $1.4 trillion annual. And pharmaceutical industry doesn't even make the top 10, which was shocking to me. And then it says that all 6 industries ahead of it on the list all rely completely on oil and gas.
Almost every industry relies on oil and gas. Almost every industry. But even if you think about the government, it relies on oil and gas to get politicians from point A to point B. Keep the lights on.
I don't know. I'm definitely gonna research to find out what they are, because I'm interested. Considering what's not on that list.
When we get together on this, you can absolutely bring that up, and I want to know. I'm curious.
What?
I'm curious. So check it out.
Yeah. When you think that the pharmaceutical doesn't even make the top 10, and we know what a huge racket that can be.
Yeah.
I'm like, no wonder people fight over oil and gas companies. But I just found that really interesting. And that was the first 5 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting.
See, I looked at it more from the badassery perspective, because I think it's like, if you watch a good drama, where it's set is more of window dressing. This cast was amazing. Billy Bob Thornton, I've always thought was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the cast was obviously a great catch.
Yeah.
Although you didn't see Demi Moore till, what was it, episode 2.
And she hasn't been terribly significant yet. But I think
no, and I'm not sure she is.
My most tragic when it comes to the cast, and honestly, let's face it, yes. Because I'm watching, and I absolutely
Me
love
too.
him, and I
Me
loved that
too.
group of characters. I was like, these are
Yes.
gonna be the characters that I watch the most closely throughout the entire run of this series.
So I know we may be going out of order, but we're there. So let's talk about it.
Specific notes on this, and I started to clench, saw them hitting that wrench with the metal hammer. They're hitting it, and you see everything shaking and
That
twisting.
little
Oh.
and he ran away. I mean, they sent him off, and
Yeah,
of course, you know.
yeah. Norris.
So Cooper, baby, as Michael
Pena.
called him. Yeah. And I was really so Michael's name is in the credits. Like he's on like the top billing part. So I was
For the first
shocked.
episode.
Well, I just mean in general. Like when you go to like the trailer and all of that, it's part of he's on the list of characters.
If you go to IMDb,
on
he's towards the bottom of the list.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
I was using that, but I didn't look to see how many episodes he was in, or I would have paid attention. Like, oh no, he's only in one.
Yeah, Armando.
Or was it two? Nope, one.
One.
Yeah, all of them. It was such a good. So they're related.
Yep.
I thought it was father and sons, but it was uncle and nephews.
Yes,
I believe followed that right.
The two and their uncle.
Yeah. But they were such a, good crew, and they took him to dinner, and
made him dinner.
I think
super spicy tacos.
Teaching him Spanish, and he said, if you want to learn Spanish, anytime we're talking, ask me. I'm like
about that because I was a little excited about that. I was like, oh, I'm really going to pay attention to that Spanish.
See if I could learn. I'm like, cool. Well, I couldn't even believe Cooper was picking it up so fast because I'm like, I couldn't even understand what he said, much less be able to speak it right afterwards.
Yeah,
I'll tell you. That's how a lot of people learn English is watching English television. So I'm like, I guess it does work. I'm like,
I recorded.
You know what they're saying.
When my cousin lives in Germany, had little kids, I had recorded some American cartoons. Now I don't know if she ever actually used them, but I made DVDs of them and I took them over with me one of the times I went to Germany. I was like, it was so stupid. What was it? Bob the Builder and the Smurfs. And I think a few episodes of Fraggle Rock to DVD so that, so her kids could watch
learn English.
Yeah.
A lot of people, that's how they do pick up English. So I guess maybe you just watch telenovelas. Is that what it's called? Maybe we just start watching telenovela. Yeah, telenovela. Maybe that's how I'll learn Spanish.
Telemundo.
Because I certainly didn't learn it in school. I could sing Happy Birthday. That's all I can.
I took 4 years of French, and the only French term that I learned from a French exchange student.
Was it a cuss word?
It really was. It was a pretty bad one. And I won't say it on here because I'm not going to risk, getting us in trouble, some kind of French censor, but it was a pretty bad one because I had a friend that spoke French and it was actually turned out to be worse than I thought it was because I said it to her and she German. And I can actually say right now that my guitar is better than my German since I actually managed to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star the other day.
Very impressive. You can't say Twinkle Twinkle Little Stars in German.
No, again, it's one of those things. My cousin's husband taught me a phrase in German, which isn't dirty. Eine blonde Frau. Anymore. I'm a beautiful blonde woman. It was true when I was in my 20s, or maybe to my cousin because she loved me.
Oh, please.
But anyway, back to Landman and the exciting, Okay, so I noticed something, and I'm going to skip over the coffee thing other than saying that I drink my coffee black, no sugar. So I would totally fit in with the Roughnecks at the Babe and Brew.
I was like, don't throw that latte away.
Cheering the latte hitting the asphalt. I'm like, whoa. I can't do lattes. I don't put milk in my.
I love a latte.
I always feel bad. People come over to my house and they'll be like, oh, I'll have a coffee. And I'm like, I don't have any milk or cream. And they're like, how can you not? And I'm like, I drink it black.
I don't drink coffee, and I have 2 coffee pots. One with a thing that makes hot and cold lattes, in frappuccinos and has a milk frother. And I always keep coffee on hand. And I never have anybody over. So,
So you don't even make
lattes?
lattes?
I've tried and I can't ever get it right. So I end up throwing it out because I'm like, well, this doesn't taste good. I just bought yet another, since you were talking about TikTok or Instagram, I bought something off of that was called Javi, which is liquid coffee concentrated. I just bought some of that. Absolutely awful
stuff, right?
I've tried it 3 different times.
I haven't tried it.
I'm like,
I don't like coffee with
hot,
anything.
I've tried it cold. I put sugar in it. I put cream in it. I put chai latte. No, none of it.
And cold brew coffee. That sounds absolutely disgusting.
Oh, it's good.
Hot
it's
chocolate, maybe.
when it's done right.
Really take his thing that he said and put it on a t-shirt and just wear it. Now, you know me and my sweatshirts and my t-shirts. It's all right, Monday. Let's see what you've got.
Which was that?
All right, Monday, see what you've got. And then he injects himself.
Is it really Monday, or is it Friday? Because I got so confused of which actual day it was.
It was Monday, but that was his Monday.
But it was his Monday.
His Monday because his week had shifted, or at least that's what Angela said.
Well, that's what I thought, but then somebody said it's not Monday. It's not Friday, or maybe they said it's not Monday. He said anyway.
That was the next day that someone said it's not Friday anymore or whatever. It doesn't matter. It was Friday.
Anyway.
Because initially I thought in watching it, like when he was injecting himself with a bunch of shit, I was like, oh my gosh, does he have cancer?
Drugs.
And then I looked at what it was.
Testosterone and vitamin D.
And then NAD, which is the nicotinamide, whatever. I have like what it, I can't pronounce it, but it's supposed to just basically like, so it's like a natural enhancement, like supposed to give you energy and strength and vitality, that type of thing. So,
well, I think there is something to the cocktail he's taking. There must be something
better and like boost you and stuff, like, 'cause he's clearly not getting enough sleep. He's not taking care of himself.
Testosterone.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he did say at one point he is an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily. He must be obviously well, it reminded me of my ex-husband. He definitely takes one cigarette,
likes
the other one. So I was like, yep, that's how Steve smokes. Yep. So the next scene, as if that scene wasn't cool enough, opening scene.
Yeah.
The next scene is even cooler because all of a sudden you see a road 6 months later. You see a road, and all of a sudden, here comes a white van, you like a utility van,
mm-hmm.
and a private jet,
mm-hmm.
and it lands on this road, and it's obviously a nice looking private jet. So I was assuming, oh gosh, it must be John Hamm's character, who's the owner of this place, Monty. I assumed it was him, and the white van was like kidnappers. That's where my brain first went.
But then why would they have landed? If you saw it, you would have seen that.
Well, I don't know if they have river mirrors. Do they? Well, not the pilot. He's not paying. Well, the guy was behind him. Anyway, you quickly find out when they pull up, it is a cocaine swapperoonie.
Yeah.
And it wasn't obviously the cartel, but these were white guys for the most part. I went back. I'm like, okay, there's at least 2 white guys on there.
Yeah, there totally were.
So, but then the next thing is, here comes over the horizon an 18-wheeler, probably going 70, 80, 90 miles an hour because there's nothing on this road because it's a private road. And it barrels through, and the van and, well, the plane explodes. The van hits a ditch, and I guess the guy died, although it didn't turn over or anything. And then I'm assuming the truck driver did as well, but it didn't explode, but it was carrying gas.
Well, there was, if you noticed, like if you looked at the truck when the guy crashed, like it was, you saw the top of the driver's head, and the impact to
Yes, it
the
was
windshield,
bloody.
and it was
Yeah.
very, very bloody.
Yeah. So I figured he was dead, but the next thing we
Trying to
see
say,
is a guy on fire run
Yeah.
across the road and then die in the opposite dip.
we
I was
later
like,
on saw that kind of
charred.
Tommy.
Did you just drop the F-bomb?
I did. You're gonna have to beat me. I do that all the time. Dude, my dad was a cop. My uncle's a trucker. It's
Listen, you'll never cuss more than my ex-husband does. It's fine.
I could try.
There's no way. This show didn't even come close.
And I'm glad you're bringing it up then, because it's like it kind of leads into what I was saying before, and I intentionally had jumped it because, like, after the injections and stuff that Tommy does, and he's hanging with his roommates, and the guy who puts cans in a microwave, which I would have to throttle him. There would be no cans left in the house anymore. Drive me nuts. But
and he's eating out of the can.
Yes, eating out of the can. Can't put it in a bowl because it's
and a lot of people eat pork and beans cold. So at least he was warming them up.
Warming them up in a pot on the stove in the can. You don't have to put it in the microwave.
That was way too much.
We're not the microwave
work. I would at least poured the bowl, into a bowl and microwaved it.
Yeah.
Taste different.
But he says it. So anyway, I loved it. It was me. That's when Tommy gets the call, and he's going out to that scene where the crash happened. And if you notice, one of the questions that he asked was about the truck. And he said it was a TCP truck. It wasn't one of their trucks, but it was on their road.
Yeah.
But it was their plane.
TCP or TPP.
Was there that had been stolen and reported to the FAA and not the local sheriff.
Yep.
Whatevs.
Which is going to come back, obviously.
Otherwise, they wouldn't have made a big deal about it.
Well, and the chick lawyer wouldn't be there.
Switching gears based on the explosion. That they're talking about building a road in a day. Now, you may not know, I live in the Keystone State where the roads are for shit. He says every single year the highways are rated, and Pennsylvania is always at the bottom of the barrel. Some of our potholes. But I found this accident in a day.
Well, it could have just been a
mile around.
It didn't have to be paved, just be a dirt road.
If you're running like that, it's I don't see them running a gravel road.
Well, we are talking about making
billions.
$4 billion a day. So it's possible they would just make it happen. Enough people to get it done. I don't know. A lot can happen if $4 billion a day goes missing because you can't drive down the road.
Yeah.
Somebody's
you build a new road. We're going to need a bigger boat. Anyway. He was like,
well, we could just go this way. There's nobody dead in there. And there was.
Yeah, I love that. Are
there
killers over here? Oh, damn it.
Yeah. What?
He
was scorched.
Dealer. Yes.
Toasty. Yeah. Well, and I find that the show has some pretty serious subject matter. Mm-hmm. Some of the scenes obviously are heavy, but it's kept very light throughout with some really funny comments. Some of the funniest from his daughter Ainsley, which we will get to.
Oh, we have to get to Ainsley.
I've got a lot of thoughts, but yeah.
But that apple fell from a very interesting tree that comes up shortly after this, which is
yes, Allie Larder.
Allie Larder, yeah.
Yes. She's still hot.
You know, at about our age, yeah, she freaking looks awesome. I don't look remotely like that.
I don't think she's in her 50s. I would probably say she's probably a decade younger than me.
I don't think so. Because remember, she was in Final Destination. That came out when I was in high school. So she was in high school same time as me.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I'd have...
her daughter looks a lot like her.
I'm going to look her up. I'm looking right now.
Okay. Her daughter was fortunate enough to look like her.
Mm-hmm.
Poor baby Cooper did not win that lottery.
Just gawky kid.
He needs some dental work done. I thought he was from...
So 48.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is still about right.
Still looks good.
That's very close to me.
But she obviously there's a lot of history there. I was I'm about to sneeze, but what I was surprised about to learn from this
Gesundheit.
Thank you. Oh, there's another German word, maybe. There's definitely appeal to Billy Bob Thornton. I mean, Angelina Jolie married him, for heaven's sake. There's got to be something. Although that was a crazy relationship.
It
with the
was
blood
very
and all that. But
I thought that was her brother with the blood.
No, they wore blood.
I thought that was her brother.
Nope, it was not. It was the two of them.
Believe you.
She obviously is now married or dating
Victor,
very rich man.
Yeah. Was the ATM with legs
is
what they call it?
Love-hate. Yeah. They have this love-hate relationship, her and Tommy.
I think they have a lust.
He still loves her
relationship.
if she just never spoke again. As so many men probably could say the same thing.
Person to point out that it's Friday, which I like too, because he's like, it's gonna be Monday all day, and she's like, it's Friday. Monday.
So let's go over the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Cooper, oh gosh, you know what? It is going to be difficult it's just episode 1.
Aspects, like some of the things we learned about Cooper, because a lot of what we learned about Cooper and who he really is, it came from episode 2.
Well, yeah, because the episode ends, because I was trying to see if Ainsley came into the picture at all, and she did near the end when Angela, which is why I guess she was calling to see if Tommy could pick her up at the airport in Midland, and unbeknownst to Angela, Ainsley, the daughter, gets off the plane with her stud of a boyfriend who is going to Alabama next year, and turns out to be famous, as in all the girls know who he is.
Yes.
And he's like, does your mother know? Your mom didn't mention he'd be coming. She's like, she doesn't know.
Dakota.
And,
Dakota
yes,
Loving.
Dakota.
What a
Dakota
name.
Loving. And of course, Tommy was like, of course it is. But then on the way from the airport, Tommy overhears the conversation about,
Alabama.
That Dakota talked to the coach about trying to put in a good word to let Ainsley come in, make it to go into college too.
Yeah, I noted this one too.
That coach, Tommy said, he's retired. And obviously he has this feeling like, this boy I can't trust. He's not. He's
absolutely lying.
He didn't go to the coach. He doesn't want her to be there. Come on.
No, he doesn't want her there.
And then they go to a football game, and Dakota's flirting with the cheerleaders, and Ainsley, I nearly spit out my water during this little chat with the father.
Yeah.
Because Tommy is standing there with her at the sidelines and said, you're not having sex. You two aren't having sex, are you? And she said, of course we are. As a matter of fact, as you would, you're telling your dad. And he then says, well, please at least tell me you're being responsible or careful. And she said, of course, we've got this one rule that we abide by. Or no doubt she said abide, and he said, I'm probably going to regret asking, but what's that one rule?
Yeah.
And much like anyone who's ever asked a question that you say, I'm probably going to regret asking, because you can never get that answer out of your brain, she responds with, well, the one rule is that we abide by is that he can't come in me, but he can come anywhere on me. And Tommy said, I'm going to go get a Dr. Pepper. Do you want anything?
And look on his face.
Thanks for being so cool, such a cool dad.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
I am a whole grown ass woman, and I would never think to say anything remotely close to that to my father. And
I get my mouth washed out with soap. I was like, But then we learn that's just basically how she talks.
Mhm.
She is quite
Much
secure.
her mother. I think she's actually
Yes.
very insecure, very, very low self-worth.
No, well,
Very low self-worth
obviously,
to the
for
point of
we
being
figure that out later, but I mean, she's secure
dangerous.
in she is well
Crass.
aware of what she does to men. There's no
Over-sexualized, and I think it's a result of her mother being
yes,
over-sexualized.
yes.
Like,
And that
that's
was a
her.
running theme throughout
Mhm.
the first 2 episodes, especially the second episode,
Yeah.
which I've got a lot to say about that when we get there. But
But you actually
she
jumped over one of my more favorite characters, and before we go too far down Ainsley, I just have to give a shout out that even though we only saw her briefly, I hope we get to see a whole lot more of her. Robin Lively
dim
as the waitress at the Patch Cafe.
Oh, yeah. I was like, "Oh, I know her." Was she in, oh, I didn't watch Teen Witch, but was she in,
That was such a
True
great
Blood?
movie.
I definitely recognized her. I'm like, "Oh, look, she's not." I don't recognize. I mean,
She's like
I
an
don't know her name.
she was in like 80s movies. Oh, she was great. And I just loved it. And I like when I saw that that she was in the cast, I was very, very excited because I really, really like her. And even though it was just that tiny little blip of her in the cafe as the waitress, I'm very excited and I'm really hoping that they develop her character because I like her as a waitress. As
I'm
not a
assuming
waitress,
she'll
as
be a
credit. So I
just
think she's going to be.
well, if for no other reason that seems to be the only place anyone goes to eat or drink. So,
Even though it
what's the
has the one
chances?
bartender who's in recovery, which I don't think any bartender should ever be in
Oh, I know a
recovery.
couple. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. But speaking of that bartender, of someone who is an alcoholic and goes to the probably the only bar in this town, probably multiple times a day because breakfast, lunch, dinner, after dinner drinks. That can't be the first time they've ever met. But he was so rude to him, and then
Probably
like
because it
he
isn't the
asked if
first
he
time they
wanted,
ever met. They've probably met
but
many, many
he
times for him
acted
to be
like
that
they had
ballsy.
never. And then when he said, "Well, I don't know," because
I didn't get the they never met
he
vibe. I got the they don't like the vibe.
obviously because he asked for do you want change? And he's like, "Did you really just ask me if I want?" Yes, I want change. And then he didn't give him any tip. He just put it all right back in his pocket.
That's like
But I forgot what I was going to say about that guy. Anyway, I just found that funny that there was
and the
definitely no love
conversation with
lost
the
between the two of them.
offended rancher who had damages from a
That's what I was going to
fire.
say. So first there was, before we even get to that, your favorite character that I overlooked, the gal, the waitress. That scene was the first time, well, second time, because I'm going to count the first time Tommy gives somebody a what for is the leader of the crew in the when he was kidnapped, telling him, you're gonna sign with us. But then the next time is when he gets the pitcher of beer and the two people come and sit down and you're not sure who they are and find out one's a landowner and probably one's the general manager for this land. And obviously something has happened and we come to learn that there was a spark that happened from I had it in my notes, something of a switch on something with the well. But because of the 50-mile winds,
Mm-hmm.
50-mile-an-hour winds, 8,000 acres burned. And so it burned across enough that there's a class action lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy's wanting, what was it, like $300,000 that they're in loss for. And so they're making a deal of, they don't want to make it like give in because then everybody else come after them. But since
Yeah, once you
these
admit
guys
fault,
didn't
that you're at
do
fault.
right, and since they didn't go with the class action, they make we'll get a lease for solar panels, and took
Yeah.
a little conversation to explain why that would obviously work.
Mhm.
Well, the landowner, when the probably the general manager said, well, was questioning it, and he goes, well, that was easy. He said something like, easier trying to sell or sell pussy at a prison, something
Mhm.
along that line.
In a men's prison,
And
yeah.
yeah, in a male prison. And the landowner said, I don't appreciate you talking that way. It's offensive, something. And then Billy Bob, Tommy, gives him a what for? And I know I've
Yeah.
got it written down. Do you have it
He
written down?
unloads on him, and the whole thing is that this self-righteous whatever rights, and now they're shocked to find themselves in bed with people with low moral value. It's get over
Yeah.
yourself. This is a choice that you made, and oh, you can't wait until we leave. And he had a really great point, and it's like you're
Well, and this
you're
was
an oil man. Don't forget you know that's where he makes his money
You're-
from. That
yeah, you would have you buy your cattle from the money you get from the oil that we take off your land, because
Yeah.
he calls himself a cowboy, like he's a rancher
who
don't
raises
have-
cattle as a hobby. Basically,
Right.
that's your hobby. You make money from
And
us.
he's like,
and
you don't want us. You would have lost your land in the 50s had it not been for oil.
Yeah.
And so the landowner was like, I mean, Tommy's like, and if I leave, the oil leaves, and if the oil leaves, the money leaves, and if money leaves, you're gone.
Yeah.
Because you can't afford to live here without it.
That was like the response
then
to,
the guy
we can't wait for you to leave. And it's just, well, the cash is
And
going to
what
be
was
gone.
funny was because then the guy goes, fine, but I don't have to smile. Like, I was like, okay, you win. So that was number 2. And then the third time he gave a good what for. No, it was the next episode. I can't talk about it yet. The lawyer. Yeah, that was the next episode. But this
I really like the one thing that Billy Bob or Tommy said. And it's like, have will be a failure, except for the last one. I really,
the last one.
that was because it's the last one.
No. She said, no, he said, is this your last one? And she said, I don't know. Moments later,
And-
she finds out it's
yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Go ahead and explain
When
what
she,
happened.
well, it's basically, her dad's like, well, you can't sleep together. Sets the boyfriend up on the sofa, takes her into his room. He's going to sleep on the floor. She takes the bed. Okay, cool. Keeps them separate. I even love that he said he was going to sleep between the bed and the door.
Sleep
I'm like,
across the
that's
door.
awesome.
Mhm.
But she convinces him, Dad, I've never slept with him before. So not the sexual aspect, like just sleeping next to him.
Yeah, she goes,
holding him,
we've
waking up with
slept
him.
we've had sex
sex.
all over the place.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
We've never slept together. And caves. And I think he knew what was going to happen. For her sake, I think he was hoping that it wouldn't, but he knew what was going to happen. He knew who this young man was and what he was all about. And there was no way he was going to accept that. Like, even that, he was pushing it so far as, well, can we at least dry hump? And it was just like gross, like all the other things you can do other than actual sex. And he was just repulsive. And
well, he was
back
like
into her dad crying.
almost every man I've ever dated. That is how men think.
Me too. And it's
And it wasn't
really, really
even
sad.
just the fact that it was literally he had zero interest in sleeping with her.
Yeah.
And when
Because
she
he
said,
doesn't
well,
care about
he's-
her as a
he's like, well,
person.
can we? And he goes, well, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Because it was like, no, we're gonna have some kind of sexual. Something's gonna happen if you're gonna be on this couch with me. And
Yeah.
I was proud of her.
It go back in and,
Is that Ed?
it is. I'm so sorry if you're watching this. I'm sorry. I just sent you the voicemail.
I'm telling. Oh, you just did. Never
I just
mind.
did. We're on a podcast, and if you ever watch this, they'll be like, "Oh, that's when she made a voicemail." She was in the middle of talking about that. I'd actually just be content to sleep next to me. So there's that.
That's sweet.
So we're not going to talk about
Listen,
that. We're not ready to talk
every
about that.
time I see Love Island or any of these things where they sleep together in the same bed but nothing happens, I'm like, that has never happened to me. Not one time.
Really?
Not once.
I have.
For a guy to keep his hands, never.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I have dated and been around enough scumbags, but I've actually met some decent men. There are some out there, and I don't know if you noticed. I actually wanted to stop and look because I was curious about what Tommy, Billy Bob, whatever I was reading in bed, and it was
Oh no, I didn't.
how the
notice.
West grew rich. Interesting, and like about like the
Well,
industry.
especially after he gave that lesson, he told his son next episode about the West. You know, it's like one of the last comments he's making at the end of the thing about people who. That's the name of the title of the episode 2. Dreamers and losers. Dreamers went
but
west.
But this is
California.
more the Western civilization as opposed to the West of the United States. And it's a book from 1986. Anyway, in case you were wondering, and anyone else didn't like pause it to actually look and see, you have me reading like the bottles he's injecting himself with, and the book that he was reading. So because I have to know.
I didn't even pay attention that there was a book.
Say I really liked when she came in and he tucked her in. And he's holding her, and I thought that was very, very sweet. Even though you're talking about her attire may not be appropriate. And
jeez,
pause for dog.
Scared me.
He's tucking her in. She's completely heartbroken, and like I said, I know what she was wearing. I kind of put that aside because I've seen stuff that kids that age wear, and she wasn't that far off the mark.
No way a mother would let her teenage daughter walk around like that in mixed company with her boyfriend. That was skimpy little underwear, especially around her father. Mm-mm.
My mother would have totally allowed it. Mother was more along the lines of Angela. So I totally, I'm just
I think most mothers would find that indecent to walk around your father in skimpy little bikini underwear, especially around your boyfriend.
Or like I said, there are mothers who would have no issue with it. Like I said, mine would have been one of them. But I do like when she asked him, she's like, "How come you're always right?" And this is the best answer. This is the truthful answer. I spent all my life being wrong, and I never forgot the lessons. It's again, it is sweatshirt worthy quote from the movie, and I thought really,
and 20-year-olds can't wear that T-shirt.
And I wrote a note to myself because as I'm watching her like go through this heartbreak, and it'd be like along the lines of like a character development thing. One of the things that turns her cold, things that happen to her to make her the new Beth. To anyone who watched Yellowstone, is this our Beth for Landman? And I think she might be.
Do you think there is? Do you think there's? Do you have an idea that there's a reason that you think there's going to be? Like
how do you develop a character into being someone really interesting, especially when they're female? And a lot of times formulaically, it's your bitch.
Yeah, I mean, I think
and the best transitions are going from being a princess to being a bitch, which I think is one of the reasons why I liked Beth so much.
Well, yeah. I mean, Beth is also there's a lot to Beth and what has built who she is, and you can't have things happen in your life without it molding who you are.
That's why I'm saying, could this be the beginning of the transition of Ainsley becoming a Beth? I don't think this by itself, one little heartbreak, doesn't make a Beth.
No,
but it can set you on the path.
We've all had a heart broken a million times, and so that would be
setting
really
her up
hard
to become a Beth, because she clearly already has low self-esteem if she's letting this prick do this to her.
I think they actually introduce her as both empowered and naive. I think she's definitely naive, but I think that she's definitely over sexualized, and we see a lot of that in the next episode, which I find even more,
which could also set her up for
offensive.
More pain and heartbreak if she keeps playing that card and plays it around the wrong people. she could easily
Well, yeah,
wind
I
up
mean,
in more and more precarious situations, making her harder and harder. I'm just saying
right.
it's a thought that crossed my mind, especially as they
And it
developed
very
Cooper a
well
little
could
bit more, and
happen.
you see that he actually isn't a giant slacker. It's like, okay, well, what's going on with Ainsley? What's her motivation? What does she do next? And I think it could
Yeah,
be
you hope that
interesting.
that's not skin deep, literally.
I don't think she is. I
That
think
there's
she's gonna
more
be
to her.
I think she's gonna be a lot more. Maybe I'm wrong about her being a Beth, but I think she's gonna
Well,
be
and
a lot
she
more.
she obviously realizes she has a sense of power over men. It's definitely powerful and can be a benefit, and it could also backfire horribly. And I think that's where you're going, is that,
That's
that
exactly where I'm going.
that power backfires, and it, changes her life forever, which unfortunately happens quite often.
Yeah.
And, the whole she was asking for it, she was dressed that way,
Oh,
debate comes into play. So,
and then
it'll
like you
be
said,
interesting to see where that goes.
and then that's where, that next scene that we had already touched on with the tragic explosion.
Well,
I
and
saw it coming only moments before, and normally I see things like that coming, but into it because you see this well-known famous actor and these great
no way you thinking
characters
he's one episode.
that quickly, and like I said, they were really developing those characters. Like, they made you in one episode care about them. And I have to say,
Yeah,
even to the
and
point
they
where
did
they
a
were
really good
wearing,
job.
um
That's good writing and good acting.
it really, really was. It was just
The
sad.
fact that they took him, yeah, they picked him up. They gave him a hard time like any first day guy on the job, didn't treat him any different.
Like
He
joking with him, like to
survived
find like what was it, the
climbing the
gauge,
stupid.
and he almost falls. I thought, at that point, like,
He
the
did
woman.
fall. He caught himself,
Yeah.
but he
Well,
definitely
he was
slid.
harnessed in.
But well, I mean, he slid down
Yeah.
probably 10 steps or whatever. But it's one of those things, like, he probably also felt as horrible as that was, at least
Yeah.
he was being treated like one of the roughnecks. But and then they go to bring him home, and he opens the door, and they ask, what you got going for dinner, and he's like, I don't know, probably go to town, get something, and they're like, shut the door, and took him home to barbecue with them, and they had that nice whole scene.
Yeah.
So tragically, it was awful to see the last scene of this episode end with, as soon as they pull up and you see, like you mentioned earlier, the uncle hitting that stupid thing with the 18 gauge wrench, needed a 20 gauge. Thank goodness. Hit with the hammer, which never seems like a good idea, metal on metal, but that's just me. Yeah, I think you and I both went as soon as we saw that.
Wasn't good, and you knew it was natural gas because you saw the
Yep, fumes and
and you saw some gas
that was
around,
something. And just the instant.
Yeah.
I mean, they couldn't even find 2 of their remains. That's how hot that was. And for Tommy to get the call and not even know it's that crew, much less his son, which we go into more next episode, which was surprising how little he reacted in that moment that it's his son. I mean, he's angry about his son even being there.
There are men who are like that, and I have to say my dad was that type of a person, who, when you're in an emergency, they just stay calm, cool, and collected, and they just go down the list of what needs to happen. Like, I was in a car accident once, and my father, and he was the officer in charge of the scene. When he first rolled up on the scene, he had no idea who was in the driver's seat.
Wow.
And he was very unhappy when he found out.
Obviously, you survived, thankfully.
It was a low speed accident. It was ice. Again, I live in the Northeast, Pennsylvania. Yay. Yeah. put on ice.
Black ice is here. Nobody knows how to drive in the South.
It dropped, what was it, like 40 degrees in less than half an hour or something. It was something ridiculous. It just, no, 20 degrees. I'm sorry, not, sorry.
Like maybe
20 degrees in less than half an hour. But everything froze so quickly and it had melted. It snowed before. Anyway, it was really bad conditions.
That's what we like to call black ice.
And I would know better now, I would hope, but I was a teenager and I crashed.
It happens.
It happens.
But
he was cool, calm, and collected, and just made sure everything needed to happen. And I think this is going to be a great series. I'm really looking forward to diving into it more. Again, I wish that we didn't have the technical difficulties that we did earlier, and we could just like tear right through both of these episodes together. But
yeah, because tomorrow night you've got the
political meeting. Yeah.
Yes.
And we're not going to talk politics on this channel, guys. That's about all that you're going to hear about it. Is that in our other lives, we have interest in all kinds of different things. So, yeah, I have that dinner tomorrow night.
This was interesting. I think even next episode is even more.
I think we kept each other. Don't have anywhere near as many notes on episode 2. Although I do have in great big capital letters the pinky.
It just proves what kind of man he is. Yeah. He just doesn't talk a good game.
All right, honey.
Ouch.
I will talk to you soon. Right. Let me.
Bye.